Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to take 7,014,014, where I try and do a really basic task of uploading a video lecture. It's boding extremely well for next term when everything's going to be online. So I joined you in the Aristotelian Society today in Zoom formal, so just have to imagine the jogging bottoms, which are the bottom half of this outfit. And I'm here to discuss my response to Jennifer Lackey's excellent work. I just want to say I think Jennifer Lackey's great, and it was such an honour to be asked to respond to her for the Aristotelian Society. And my paper is called Group Lies and the Purposes of Social Epistemology. So what I do in this paper is I look at a desideratum, which I hope I'm using the terms right. I had an editor for the paper, so I presume they've got me to do this Latin tense, or was it plural versus not plural? I don't know. Difference correctly. I'm just going to do my best to say desideratum. I'm going to look at this desideratum, which Jennifer Lackey appeals to in making her argument, and I'm going to offer some counter arguments, but largely really I'm just offering an alternate perspective, and I'll reflect a little bit on how I think this perspective relates to hers at the very end. So what's the argument I'm responding to? So Jennifer Lackey is herself responding to these two accounts of group belief formation. So hopefully you've already seen her video and read her paper, but just very briefly. According to these two accounts of group belief formation, the important thing is that they have it that the group belief is constituted by or comes about when key people who are sort of empowered to make epistemic decisions on behalf of the group, they collectively decide, or by whatever means they have, they decide to affirm some proposition as the belief of the group. And the important thing about this, which Lackey stresses, is that this means that the beliefs of those individuals and the belief of the group can come apart, right? Because we could decide to affirm something as the group belief, which doesn't reflect our individual belief. And the problem with this kind of feature, I think Lackey is going to argue, is that it leads to accounts failing to meet what she calls the group lie desideratum. She actually has a group bullshit desideratum too. I think the arguments are going to be pretty similar in both cases. In the paper, I focus on the group lie desideratum, so I'm going to do that here. And it also means I'm not going to vaguely be cringily swearing in my video for the Aristotelian Society. So that's nice too. Okay, so what is the group lie desideratum? The group lie desideratum says, I'm reading from now, an adequate account of group belief should have the resources for distinguishing between, on the one hand, a group asserting its belief that P, and on the other hand, paradigmatic instances of a group lying regarding that P. And she's going to argue that these accounts, the ones she's targeting, they can't meet that. And so their accounts of group belief formation just kind of fail to properly distinguish between sincere group belief that P and lying that P. So let me just take a sip of my cucumber water. Lockdown. Culinary creativity there. So that was ironic. I'm aware that's not that creative. Okay, so how does she argue that they can't meet this criteria? Well, she has these really nice cases. I really like this one, the tobacco company case. I'm going to read it out now. So Philip Morris, one of the largest tobacco companies in the world, is aware of the massive amounts of scientific evidence revealing not only the addictiveness of smoking, but also the links it has with lung cancer and heart disease. While the members of the board of directors of the company believe this conclusion, they all jointly agree that, because of what is at stake financially, the official position of Philip Morris is that smoking is neither highly addictive nor detrimental to one's health, which is then published in all of their advertising materials. So in this case, what she says is those other accounts of group belief that she's targeting, they're going to turn out that looks like an instance of group belief on their accounts, because it seems like what's happened is the company basically, their group belief formation procedures have come to this and endorsed it. But this is clearly a group lie. Philip Morris does not sincerely believe that smoking is neither highly addictive or detrimental to one's health. That's just what they're saying, but they're lying, right? So the group belief accounts which she's looking at, they fail because they're not capturing this thing. So because I'm a deeply annoying person, I'm going to look at the desideratum itself rather than the first order issue. And I'm going to try and think why should we accept this? And as I said, I'm going to sort of challenge it. I'm going to argue that one of the arguments Lackey gives I don't think is quite right, and the other one is interesting, but I'm going to outline an alternative perspective. So Lackey gives two arguments for favouring the group lie desideratum. And one of them is a normative one. It's basically it's morally or legally important to identify instances of group lies. That way we can hold people or hold groups accountable for their lies and also for the consequences that flow from those lies. There's a kind of sort of like pragmatic or like arguments for like where it's normatively important that we like do something about them, basically. And the other is a descriptive claim. So like they just, Philip Morris just were lying in that example, right? And so if you say that they really believe it, you're getting it wrong. You're not getting the right group attitude to the proposition that smoking is neither highly addictive nor detrimental to one's health. And so let's look at the normative argument first. So this is only a kind of a brief introduction to my paper. I'm not going to have time to go into my actual arguments. I'm just going to look at a really high-level description of my arguments, and so go read the paper to check it out. But like my high-level problem with the normative argument is that I take this to be a kind of like a pragmatic consideration. What's meant to motivate the group lie desideratum here is that like we need to be tracking the distinctions to like achieve an important social task of regulating and holding these people accountable because it's like morally or normatively important to us. And I just actually don't think it's what we need to be tracking. I don't think the difference between sincerity and group sincerity and group lies is like what's normatively or morally important. I wonder if I gesture this much normally, is it just like I'm insecure because lecturing to a video is super weird. Next time it's going to be fun. So why don't I think it's morally, legally, normatively what we should be focusing on, this distinction between sincerity and group lies? Well, I think that roughly because basically I think it sort of tracks the wrong thing. I think what we actually need to care about is do the group appropriately respond to their evidence, and are they like appropriately gathering their evidence? So like doing things to ensure that what they affirm as a group and propagate assert as a group as well, like are those things like properly tethered to responsible epistemic procedures, or responsible procedures of inquiry. And so like I sort of illustrate this with a attempt at a sort of wacky thought experiment. I want to say Lackey's one is realistic, but I'm worried that will mean I get sued by tobacco companies. I assume I have the full might of the Aristotelian Society's lawyers behind me, but like I have a more unrealistic example in any case. So like you can imagine that like the Philip Morris's board of executives, they're going to do exactly what they did in Lackey's scenario, but at the last minute, Anansi casts a charm over them. Anansi is the trickster god of the Ashanti people represent. And what Anansi does is he casts this charm such that they all come to like sincerely believe the thing they're gonna affirm. They come to think it actually is grounded in the evidence, even though it obviously isn't. And so they when at the point at which they make their epistemic decision, they do sincerely believe that smoking is neither addictive nor detrimental to one's health. Or you can imagine this happens at some other point in the process too, but the point is like, with the right kind of bad reasoning, or, in this case, enchantedly bad reasoning, or like wishful thinking, whatever, you can come to like sincerely believe the ridiculous claim, and I think that can go for groups too. The group can be like improperly responsive to its evidence. But if that happens, like I don't think that actually matters. Like it doesn't. I nonetheless think we need to have some kind of intervention to prevent Philip Morris from like forming and acting on these kind of beliefs. And the reason we need to have it is because it's like very much in the public interest to stop these like large companies which can have a lot of sway, and which are the kind of thing and governments as well, which are the kind of institutions which make us like normatively care about group belief. Like what matters is that they have to be responsible, and they have to be like properly responsive and engaging with their evidence and properly gathering that evidence, not whether they're sincere. Like sincere, you can deceive the public, or you can sort of carry out your conspiracies against the public basically through your epistemic procedures sincerely because you're a fool or because you're in wishful thinking, or insincerely, and that is not a difference that matters. What matters is that you're harming public, or you're in any case like you're systematically inept. Your epistemic procedures are like systematically bad in some way. And I think in this case, what's wrong is the thing which Lackey herself stresses is that the kind of the voluntariness of group belief formation, the way there is this kind of more ability to like consciously decide what to do. Like that means that like there is this like your epistemic procedure has to involve you like choosing to act right in the right kind of way. And like group lies are often going to be the result of them choosing to act badly, But like the point really is like the thing which we normally need to intervene on is that like all of the choice points they're making there are like reasonable, responsible epistemic choice points, whether or not they sincerely believe they're reasonable or good. That's beside the point. So that's why I argue at length, and there's much more bells and whistles in the paper, but that's what I'm saying. That I think there's the normative argument for the group lie desideratum fails because like tracking the distinction between lies and sincere belief is not what I want to be tracking. What I want to be tracking is responsible epistemic procedures and ensuring that things are properly grounded in those procedures. The next argument like it gives is the descriptive argument. Now, according to the descriptive argument, it's just just incorrect to say these are group lies. These are sincere group beliefs. They're actually group lies, and you're just wrong if you say otherwise. And I should say I do feel that intuition. I also think Philip Morris were lying again. Aristotelian Society lawyers get my back. Philip Morris, a real company. I don't smoke. Okay. Nonetheless, though, I think there's a kind of another perspective on social epistemology or philosophy more broadly, which I draw from Carnap, which has some relationship to like kind of ameliorative analysis, which is nowadays quite popular, or conceptual engineering. Catherine Delvez has a good paper on the relationship here. But according to explication, what we're in the business of doing if for this kind of project is we are trying to come up with new concepts or new conceptual tools or like technical machinery or whatever it is we're doing. Formal technical machinery, like I haven't worked with my hands since back in the day, and I ain't never going back. So like formal mathematical technical machinery, what we're like, and so what's important for this is that this allows us to achieve whatever tasks we take to be normatively important in the case, but it's not important that it does it in the same way. So we don't necessarily need to come out of this tracking the same distinctions as we were beforehand. So like Carnap has this example of coming up with the concept of PCs, I think it's pronounced that way, to replace the concept of fish, where like both are kind of means of taxonomizing animals. But in the end, in the sciences, for people using the concept PCs, they didn't really do it in the same way that the pre-theoretic understanding of but like the previous concept, the precursor concept of fish was doing it. And that's fine, because they were still able to achieve their purposes as biologists by means of this new concept, and it had some advantages too in terms of greater precision or allowing them to like formulate like laws for the sciences they're interested in or whatever. So the point just being that I think for the explicator, the descriptive argument for the group lie desideratum is like not really going to get off the ground. Like it's not the case that what we're trying to do is accurately capture like a division of the world which we're inclined to make before we've begun the process of explication. We're constructing the divisions we care about, and we're doing that by reference to our purposes. And since I've already given an argument against the normative case for inducing the group lie desideratum, I therefore I'm not yet persuaded that my practical purposes or the purposes for which I might want to distinguish various types of group attitude commit me to like finding it important to like ensure I'm capturing paradigmatic instances of group lies as distinct from group beliefs. So yeah, those are the two arguments I give in the paper, and you can read there. There's far more detail there, but that's roughly why I don't think we should accept, or like I'm at least not yet persuaded for the project I'm engaged in when I do social epistemology, that what I need to do is take on board the group lie desideratum and reject accounts that don't meet it. So I'm just going to say a little bit like to end up about like what I think the overall project I'm trying to like offer in contrast here is, and how I think it relates to Lackey's. So I think the overall methodological or metaphilosophical perspective on social epistemology I've tried to outline could be summarized as follows. In everyday life, we make use of vague or ambiguous concepts that for the most part achieve their social purpose without need of precise analysis to validate or support them. Occasionally, however, there are special social or technical purposes that require we have more fine-grained analysis at hand to make sure precise discriminations among phenomena are made, or to facilitate rigorous inferences concerning what to do or think. So like that might be like legal or regulatory purposes, so certainly among the kind of things which Lackey has raised our attention. In those cases, we as philosophers may well need to engage in this like creative conceptual work of explication. That's one of the tasks we could be doing, or I want to advocate. But there is no a priori reason to think that the results of our explicative work will result in concepts that track the same distinctions that we were previously making, or which allow us to better enforce norms that we might have already phrased in terms of our previous concepts. Instead, we must carry out analysis. By specifying a particular context of use and tasks we wish to achieve in that context. We must do that if we want to do an explicative project. And we have to be fully aware that concepts so developed may seem odd if applied outside that context and may not achieve the tasks in the same way as other conceptual tools we had available prior to explication would have. As such, the method of analysing core concepts like group belief by means of considering cases wherein it would seem to be inapt or apt to apply it, it's just like kind of ill-suited carrying out philosophy in this way. And the fact that the group lie desideratum was not found attractive was just like an upshot of the sort of this broader difference of what I take like my project in doing social cosmology to be. To relate this finally to Jennifer Lackey and Jennifer Lackey's paper and project, I think I've tried to be careful. Like I'm not saying that explicative work is like the only project, and I'm saying it's like from that perspective that the group lie desideratum would not seem attractive, but that's one perspective. And so I don't mean, I don't take this to have refuted her argument in a straightforward way, because she's engaged in a different project and I haven't given her any reason to change her mind to do this project, and I'm not trying to. What I'm hoping instead to do is foster kind of understanding of these differences, and hence kind of like a long-run convergence in metaphilosophical perspectives. There's not convergence in the sense of all agreeing, but convergence in understanding what we're up to. Like kind of what motivated this is I run in circles with this kind of explicative project is like a more normal task, and I often think that leads to some misunderstanding with I think maybe more traditional social epistemology or analytic analysis in general. And I hope that if we understand each other's perspectives, then maybe like the results of each of our work could be useful to each other. And I just want to say that I certainly know that the results of Lackey's like really just like careful and fascinating analytic work has proven to be invaluable to me and my own thinking sometimes before, and I expect in the future. Okay, thank you, Aristotelian Society. I'm sorry I made so many commitments that your lawyers are going to have to honour. Thanks again for having me here. See you around. Peace. Hope everyone's well, etc.